Case of stepson imprisoned for 20 years in Connecticut. It was a day in mid-February 2024 when the Waterbury, Connecticut Fire Department received an emergency call about a fire at a house on Blake Street. When they arrived, no one expected that behind the fire was a horrifying story of abuse and imprisonment lasting 2 decades, a case that even veteran police officers could not comprehend. On February 17, the fire center received a call from a panicked woman. "Oh my God, 2 Blake Street. Please hurry, there's a fire at 2 Blake Street. Oh my God, it's burning." This woman was Kimberly Sullivan, who would later be charged with imprisoning her husband's son for 20 years. During the call, she said her stepson was in the room, and she didn't know what he had done with the TV. But she saw fire and smoke. She requested an ambulance, saying the victim was injured, kind of unconscious. When firefighters and police arrived at the scene, they discovered a frightening sight. Police body cameras captured Sullivan leading them into the house and informing them that her stepson was still inside. When they brought the victim out, no one could be prepared for the man's condition. According to police reports, the victim, referred to as MV1, male victim 1, in the records, was a 32-year-old man. Sullivan's husband's son. When rescued from the house, he weighed less than 31 kilograms, 68 pounds, with a height of 1.75 meters, 5 feet 9 inches. His hair was matted, his body was filthy, and all his teeth were decayed. After being taken to the hospital and stabilized, MV1 recounted the terrifying story of his life over the past 20 years. He said he was removed from public school in 2004, when he was about 12 years old. Since then, he had been confined to his room for 22 to 24 hours each day. The details of MV1's life shocked even the most experienced investigators. He recounted being allowed only 2 cups of water per day, and sometimes having to drink from the toilet. He was forced to relieve himself in bottles and on newspapers. When allowed out of the room, it was only to do housework, and he never dared tell anyone about his situation for fear of being confined longer. According to MV1's testimony, his biological father lived in the house until his death in January 2024. The father was paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair. After his father's death, MV1's confinement became even more strict. Details about MV1's life revealed complete isolation from the outside world. He said he was sometimes allowed to watch TV on weekends, and once had a black and white TV in his room, but it eventually stopped working. To keep track of time passing and the current year, he had to listen to radio broadcasts of University of Connecticut basketball games and NASCAR races through the door crack. MV1 was not allowed to have friends, and the last time he had fun was on Halloween. The last time he went trick-or-treating was when he was 12. And his final costume was a firefighter, a particularly haunting detail considering it was firefighters who ultimately rescued him from his imprisonment. The most remarkable aspect of this story is how MV1 created an opportunity to escape his confinement. He admitted to police that he deliberately set the fire in his room. He used a lighter he had taken from his deceased father a year earlier, along with printer paper and hand sanitizer, which he had read was flammable. MV1 lied to Sullivan that the fire started due to a malfunctioning radio, and she let him out of the room. However, she still insisted he wash his face before escaping outside, fearing firefighters would notice his appearance. Most moving of all was MV1's account that he lay down on the floor as the fire spread and smoke filled the house. Knowing firefighters would be forced to take him out, he believed it was the only way to escape his situation. When asked why he set the fire, he simply replied, "I wanted to be free." Immediately after discovering the incident, Waterbury police began investigating and raised questions about how someone could be imprisoned for such a long time without anyone noticing. According to Waterbury police, the Department of Children and Families, DCF, visited MV1's home twice in 2004. After he was removed from school, these visits occurred because teachers and students at the school were concerned that something was wrong. The Waterbury police chief stated in a press conference that officers had gone to the house and found it clean and occupied. They spoke with the victim and saw no alarming signs. They reported back to DCF, and that was the last time police were involved in that investigation. Later, The family called the police in late April to file a harassment complaint against members of the school district, saying they were repeatedly reporting the family to DCF and felt the school district was trying to cause trouble for the family. However, no evidence of any form of harassment was provided by the family. DCF later told WTNH in Connecticut that they had no records relating to MV1 and his family. They explained that in that state, records are deleted after 5 years when reports of neglect or abuse are deemed unfounded. A major question in this case concerns the role of other members of MV1's family. The New York Post spoke with the man's biological mother, who lives in Meriden, Connecticut, about 20 minutes' drive from Waterbury. The mother told the newspaper, "We are all trying to cope with the horror that my son endured. He has a family that loves him very much and he was never forgotten." However, the mother did not answer questions about why she didn't rescue her son from this abuse. Kimberly Sullivan, 42, is currently charged with first-degree assault, second-degree kidnapping, first-degree unlawful restraint, cruelty to persons, and first-degree reckless endangerment. Sullivan's lawyer strongly denied the allegations outside court, saying his client completely maintains her innocence, and that the charges are untrue and bizarre. The lawyer stated, "She absolutely never locked him in a room. That's completely untrue. He was not locked in a room. She did not restrain him in any way. She provided food. She provided shelter." The lawyer also referenced the recently deceased father, saying he was the one who made decisions about raising his son, and that when evidence is presented, people will see that Sullivan is not the monster they're trying to make her out to be. Sullivan was released on $300 bail and is awaiting her next court date, scheduled for March 26. Meanwhile, the Waterbury community is working to support MV1 as he recovers in the hospital and faces a long road ahead to recover from what allegedly happened. A GoFundMe page operated by the nonprofit Safe Haven of Greater Waterbury was linked by the police department on their Facebook page. At the time of reporting, the page had raised over $90 to support MV1's recovery process. The Kimberly Sullivan case has shocked the Waterbury community and attracted national attention. It raises painful questions about how child protection systems work, the effectiveness of homeschooling oversight, and the community's responsibility in protecting vulnerable individuals. As this case continues to be investigated and tried, MV1 is beginning a long journey to recover not only physically but also psychologically after 2 decades of imprisonment. His story is a painful reminder of the importance of protecting the most vulnerable in our society and ensuring that no one falls through the cracks of the system. As MV1 himself said, the motivation behind his setting the fire was simple: "I wanted to be free." A basic and universal human aspiration that most of us take for granted. But for MV1, it was a luxury denied for 2 decades of his life.